Hi, I'm Amy Straw, and I'm the principal of
What are you most excited about this year?
I've thought about this question, and when I entered in the school year, had I done this interview, it would have been just like having kids in building and seeing them. And that's still a huge part of my excitement every day because they bring the energy that brings energy to the building. But, you know, as things start settling down and we're getting into a routine, you know, I look at all the equity work that we're doing and moving forward to meet the kids where they're at and what they need.
How do you encompass equity as a leader?
As a leader, I think I try to lead by example. And then when I look at equity work, I know that it is not a sprint, that it is this journey that will have ups and downs. And I have to acknowledge that first to then get my staff there to realize that like we have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so if I can show them that I'm okay with that, I feel like that allows them to see that it's a safe environment to learn and grow and move towards more equitable practices to better support our students.
How do you include the David Douglas School District equity lens when making building-wide decisions?
You know, I constantly reflect on the questions that are asked in there of, you know, what is best for our students? You know, will this work for some students and not others? You know, and it's been interesting as this is my 5th year here to be able to really look at the students and be able to listen to them because they may not understand like the equity lens, but like getting them to be like, what is it that you need? Because every kid here is referred from the high school and school didn't work for them for whatever reason. And so what we're really learning is like even using the equity lens, you know, and as the high school uses it, it works for the kids, some of the kids there, but then how do we take that and look at it for our building so it's similar but different? And so it's something that we refer to, I think, on a daily basis, or, you know, whether or not we're looking at curriculum or just accessing new materials.
What does a racially affirming school environment look like?
Yeah, I look at my building is majority students of color, and my staff is majority white. And so really looking at an identity affirming school with a focus on like racial conscious educators. And so, you know, understanding that, you know, every kid brings in this unique scenario, and it's not just about like maybe their race, but their entire culture and how they were raised, and knowing that like, though we could have, you know, 48% of our students self-identified as Black or African American, each one of those kids are so different, and trying to understand that it's like when we look at equitable practices that we look at all of those things. And so, you know, when I look at like an identity affirming school is just acknowledging and affirming and making sure that every kid is seen and heard.
What is your equity stance?
So when I think of like an equity stance, and my background being special ed, is making sure that each kid gets what they need. And knowing that that is a variety of things. So like when I look at our program as a whole, you know, that we're guaranteeing that students will receive, you know, an academic program here that meets each one of their individual needs. So sometimes we have to change and adjust. And one year it might look like this. And then the next year we're like, oof, we need to do that. And just being able to know that it's our job to kind of be fluid with that. And I'm excited because I got to be a part of the Oregon Department of Ed Equitable Grading Practices PLC, and they did an activity around equity stance that I'm going to do with the staff, and then we'll kind of come up with our own for the building. So we'll see how that turns out.
How will you use data to ensure equitable outcomes for students?
I love data. I think this goes back to probably my special education background as well. But, you know, a lot of times if I base decisions on feelings or something like that, or maybe I feel uncomfortable with the topic, I wouldn't do it. But if the data shows me that we need it, then it's my job as an educator and as a principal or a leader to like have those hard conversations. So, you know, you'll walk into my building and on our TVs for students and also in memos to staff, like we have like our disproportionality data available, or I'll show students, you know, locations of referrals and why we have staff there, or why, you know, how do we decrease that? And same with like grading practices. So, you know, I give feedback to the teachers on, you know, how many kids in their class passed and failed, and I can break it down by grade, by race, by gender, and have them kind of reflect on that. And then obviously if we start seeing patterns or anything like that, then we have to do deeper work for ourselves within our like, you know, grading practices or our green team. And so that data helps me show the staff that is where we need to move. So it's, I mean, the amount of data that I use, I think, you know, really helps the conversation.
What equity practices do you hope to see in every classroom?
So, you know, we've done work around the culture responsive teaching strategies, and we've picked 3 a few years ago, and we have, I think 2 going now. So within that, like, and again, it's, I think the ones that we picked were 16 and 19, which all evolve around like using student voice and integrating that into the lessons. So those I automatically see. You know, part of the other thing that we do around, I would say, like restorative practices is the baseline level of like really getting to know our students. So, you know, I like to ask the teachers, especially right now, it's been the first few days of the Hexter, like, you know, how do you get to know your kids? Because our Hexters last 30 days and then we have new students. So we have to get to know them fast. You know, so whether it's a questionnaire or anything like that. But then I also like to see different curriculum. So like this is the first year in our forensic science where we were able to purchase skulls of different races and genders, which we've never had. And I got to witness conversations with students of different races, be like, this is what I look like under my skin, that we had never got to see before because bones come generically as European males. And so like a kid was like, my teeth are scooped like this, you know, and it was just this conversation around, we never would have seen it before. So, you know, that's something that I like to like walk in and see and watch these students have conversations around it.
As you self-reflect on your spring and summer hiring practices, share your efforts and outcomes to diversify your school building for both classified and certified positions.
You know, I'm hoping that I get applicants. Right now, it's been very hard. Like we have two spots open right now with classified, and we have 0 applicants. And so trying to figure out from a district level, like how do we get that out more? And right now I'm fully staffed, so I won't be able to add in any certified staff. But in the past, I try to make sure that my goal, especially now that we're back in building, is to make sure that there's staff representation as well as student representation. Because being in a building as small as my building, the students really need a voice in who teaches them. And so making sure that at least they're a part of it to help get more people that they can learn from. I'm Amy Straw. I'm the principal of Fir Ridge, and I believe in equity.